because to send $5,000 out, if we're going to get into this, we're going to get into some serious inflation for a minute. Food prices going up, wheat's going up, get into inflation. Says $5,000. Is that the first foray and dipping the toe into the water to like a universal basic income for Americans to get us through this tough period?
I don't think so. What he's doing is that basically, if he saves $100, he's giving the American people 25. So you're still going to have a 3/4 deflation. What he's doing is political. He's basically saying people can't comprehend these numbers, right? I'm going to save $1 trillion. It's meaningless for somebody. But if he says, I'm going to save $1 trillion, in fact, for every person in the country I've given $5,000 to, that becomes meaningful.
Good afternoon, everyone. As always, Bob Kudla joining me. We're going to roll through the month. We want to talk about some of these things that are affecting us that we're seeing everywhere monetarily. Everybody's walking on pins and needles. Trade Genius, tradelikeagenius.com or tradewith2030.com.
And I'm looking both ways here, so I apologize. The market is zany right now, Dave. So if my eyes seem to go over this way, I'm watching the markets, okay?
Yeah, because today, I might even title this program here, March in like a lion. And not only that, but probably a pack of lions, if there are, that pride of lions coming in, ripping things up. A lot of people are wondering, what's happening, all this unknown with Trump coming in to audit this, or finding all kind of mismanagement and absconded funds over there with Doge. And then the world, and Bob, you'd mentioned the German elections here. You got Romania also doing its thing. And there's an enormous amount of the Bybit hack also is wreaking havoc across the crypto markets, and everybody's just on edge everywhere. So hopefully we can let people glimpse around the corner a bit to put their minds at ease after today.
Yeah, look, welcome to the fourth turning. So let's talk Trump first, because that has the biggest impact on the stock market and the economy in 2025. So Trump is a populist, okay? And now you're seeing full-throated populism in place. So populists care more about the voter than they do Main Street, than they do Wall Street and the bankers. So he's going to position for the next election by making sure that people are happy. And that's going to cause some short-term pain in the stock market. Now, having said that, February 15th into March 20th is a seasonally weak period for the stock market. And now it is living up to its seasonality right now. The market's been just falling every day, but then I think we sell off into the end of the month, and then you get a little bit of a bounce for the beginning of the month when the money comes in, and then I think we fall again into the March option to expiration, which is the third week of March. Now, April and May tend to be very bullish, but when these sell-offs happen, Dave, you basically lose 2 or 3 months of gains in a week or two. And that's what we're seeing. Look at Palantir. On Wednesday, Thursday, it was at $125. Right now, it's sitting at $92.15. Okay? So that's a 25% haircut in 2 days. So it just, when these high alpha companies or high beta moving companies, when they sell off hard. And it's problematic for stock market because all the indexes are tied to these big names. So everything kind of falls in sympathy with each other. Now, what Trump is doing with the market is interesting. So he wants oil prices down. He's going to get what he wants, but oil servicing companies are going to do really well because they're going to get a lot of work. Okay. And so you're going to start seeing these winners and losers start manifesting with each other. And that we're already starting to see that. Bitcoin is going to follow the liquidity. Remember, Trump is going to take 15% of the liquidity that's generated from deficit spending is going to be eliminated. He is going to eliminate it. That means money is going to evaporate. Remember, when people talk about money, there's two kinds of money. There's money that you get out of the cash register, and there's money that's created through debt, financing, credit. And that's going away. And you're going to start seeing the effects of that in the stock market, because stock market's a 1-for-1 on that. So that's going to have effect on the stock market too. That's why we think there's going to be a 2-year, fall off in the stock market. Now, Trump promised people that, and he's already putting it in for the reconciliation bill, $5,000 per person in the country. So we'll get a pop in liquidity once he figures everything out. But Dave, the fraud that they're uncovering is mind-boggling. They said if they run this thing all the way back to the beginning, we probably have as much fraud as we have debt in the country. I mean, that is jaw-dropping. It basically, the left has been on basically a theft campaign since the beginning. They've been extracting wealth from the American treasure to enrich themselves for 40 or 50 years. And now with technology, look, Doge is Grok. You got Grok 3 in there, right? Running these programs inside of these federal government. They're finding things that have been well hidden for decades, and they're just unearthing them. And I mean, you're talking $1 billion here, $2 billion here. They think there's maybe $1 trillion worth of fraud in Social Security and Medicare alone. I mean, I can't even wrap my arms around that. And the reason why Elon Musk did this thing with the email, part of it was to see what you're doing, but part of it, he wanted to see who was going to respond to the email. And he did something really smart. He said, also send your email to your manager. Okay. Well, if you're fraudulent and you just have a Social Security number or an email address to get paid, you may not know who your manager is because you stole it and you've just been getting paid. So the next 2 weeks are going to be mind-boggling. You got some of the Congress people on the left saying, we don't know what he has on all of us. So, and I know you and I were talking before the show here about Fort Knox. I don't think Trump is going to put the country at risk by going to Fort Knox and having no gold there, because that would only benefit China. So I also heard a secondary rumor that we have more gold in there than what we say we do. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they find out. But they're too eager to go into Fort Knox, okay? Because if we had no gold in there, I mean, that's the United States' wealth anchor, okay? And look, we told France to go pound sand instead of giving up our gold. We let our currency float. You remember that in 1971. So I doubt
Germany too. Germany as well. On about 2015, they only got half their gold back. So we've been telling people pound sand for a while on their gold recovery.
Well, there's two golds, right? There's Fort Knox and there's New York. So Germany was in New York, but Fort Knox is that gold should have never moved in or out, right? So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. My point of view is that I have to be prepared to be wrong and there's no gold there. What would that mean? You better own gold mining companies because gold will go through the roof because they just realize there's 8,000 less metric tons of gold out there than they thought, And then Grok 3 basically blew deep state away, blew AI away, blew chat GPT away, and you got Microsoft now basically canceling their data centers, which is going to affect NVIDIA. And all this is it just starts rolling downhill. It's a snowflake that hits the avalanche, right? And next thing you know you have villages buried down below. And I think that's what's happening now.
But oh man, over here, the Asian news, everybody's so angry that the money's being taken away from their give outs, right? Doesn't matter which country it is. They're just so angry that America's pulling the funding.
Well, if you think about it, Dave, it's an amazing Rube Goldberg machine they created. So now Congress had no oversight of this money whatsoever. They just gave it to them in mass. So it was basically up to U.S. aid how they spent it. So what they do is they send it they give it a great idea, like we're going to go ahead and support Haiti, right? So what happens is $4 billion is supposed to go to Haiti relief. Well, we first of all find out 57% of it never left D.C. because as it got cycled into the NGOs siphoned off nearly 60% of it for themselves.
Administration costs is what they call that.
Yeah, in Parliament. And then you have hold on,
check it out, man. What do you got? You got the signal.
Yeah, I got signal. I went long Palantir for a quick trade. A situation then goes to a secondary set of NGOs. Okay, those are the foreign NGOs. All right, and so this money then gets cycled and it starts cycling back to the politicians, or it goes to activists, and then the activists are either news organizations or they're the paid protesters. So you have this money that you got $1 trillion that sloshes in, and it's basically been supporting the leftists' point of view and employment. I mean, you know how many hundreds of thousands of people that, and what, 262 news organizations were supported by this, and they all sang out of the same hymnal. So basically, Trump is defunding the left here, and most American people won't even notice it because it's going to be just a very, very small group of people that made a whole lot of money. You're talking about these lawyers and lobbyists and nonprofit elites. Look at even Vinkman, right? The Ukrainian colonel, one that was calling Trump basically a traitor. He created a nonprofit and $2 million slid into that. Well, where'd that $2 million goes? Well, it probably went and paid, for his salary over there, right? So it's just amazing how all this is coming home to roost, but it needs to happen. And it's all part of the fourth turning. We're having a cleansing here because it was going to be either that or default. And I think the American people made a wise decision, which I think Germany now is basically Trump 1.0, right? They've hit 20%, but they still are behind the CDU. But I have to ask you, you know this probably better than I do. I know AFD is more conservative, but CDU is center right, correct? Are they going to be able to find common ground with each other, you think?
No, because they've been so demonized by those very same news organizations you talked about that had enough funding to write articles all the way until just a couple of weeks ago or a month ago. They have demonized that party to, connect them with the Nazis from 1940s. I mean, just the demonizing of that party going populist, also wanting to reverse migration into the country. They raked him over the coals, and he could barely even touch. You were like an independent reporter that wasn't in that cesspool of leftist media there. If you just went even sat down with an interview with some of the politicians in AFD, oh, your reputation was tarnished too, because then you were a sympathizer for it, and that's where it's gone to. So a lot of people didn't want to get on record voting for the party because that's public record, and then you're also seen as a sympathizer there too of alleged Nazi ties. You're sympathizing. So this next bout of election, after this gets cleared out a little bit more, I would imagine they would really skyrocket. If there's no stigmatization and there's no connecting of your personal reputation, I mean, hell, you can get arrested for a tweet. You can get arrested for just a simple social media post in Germany and England. Now, what do you expect on a voting record on what they consider super far right, Nazi tied, but it's not. It was all demonization in the media because they were growing so fast, like Trump was and is, that they were going to sweep through everything. And you saw what happened with the Romanian elections, where they had rightist, populist, and then said, well, we don't accept that vote because they said it was all pushed by Russia campaign or Russia misinformation to try to get that person. But they were duly elected. And because it didn't sit and another populist candidate got elected, they're like, no, we have to redo the election. But now they're fighting that in the streets. And they're like, we're not doing anything. That's the elected president. You all need to get out of there. And the Republic of Georgia had the same thing. They had a soft color revolution with the same journalists.
Yeah, well, you also have look like Spain might be turning right too. So look, it's going to get to the point where there's only going to be France, but look, France might be turning right too. I just think the whole thing is turning hard. It's going to be really interesting to see. My prediction is that Trump's going to reconcile with Russia. Russia desperately is looking for a fig leaf out of this war, and Trump's doing all he can here to make Putin feel comfortable, in my view, because he's calling Zelensky out. Zelensky made a huge strategic error by making Trump his enemy. He thought he can go around Trump. He was in Trump 1.0 world. He's now living in Trump 2.0 world. Trump will just cut him off and say, have at it, Russia. Let me know when you guys want to stop fighting because I'm not going to give you anything. But I think Russia wants out of this thing. Look, we need to deal with Russia. People, I get so annoyed. And look, my family's background is Eastern European, right? So we have no love for the Soviet Union, no love for Russia, no love for Putin at all. But I'm a realist, and we need them and they need us. And we both need to counteract China. This multipolar world thing is basically China talk for we want to be in charge of the world. You got a situation here where Russia knows that if their only friend is China, that they're in big trouble, and so they need to reconcile. And look, I think the Slavic nations will coalesce around each other. It's just that Russia and Ukraine's they've had it out since basically the 1930s, right? 1920s, when Stalin went ahead and tried to kill so many of these people. And so, but they have to reconcile, and they need to cool their jets. And look, Trump's going to do that. And he's also going to isolate Iran, and then we can put our full on attention onto China. And as you know, I'm not a big China fan, and I think China's Potemkin village. And I know you're living in an area where you could probably see on a really good day, you could probably see the shores of China. But I think it would be remiss of me to say that I think China is going to be is going to be in the crosshairs, and I think they're losing all their advantages here now with AI, advanced manufacturing, local sourcing, mass customization, local customization. Time to market. All China has is basically deregulation and cheaper labor, but all those advantages are going away. And Trump's going to throw a tariff and all that stuff on top to boot.
Yeah, because you said China wants to rule the world. Yeah, they have their 9-dash line that they want to take most of the South Pacific and most of the South China Sea. But there was a few jokes online where they have the 13-dash line now, which includes going around the moon. So, they want everything. If we're going to nationalize our debt and we're going to monetize all of our assets, and that is Trump getting it, starting a national sovereign wealth fund, because to send $5,000 out, if we're going to get into this, we're going to get into some serious inflation for a minute. Food prices going up, wheat's going up, get into inflation. So this $5,000, is that the first foray and dipping the toe into the water to like a universal basic income for Americans to get us through this tough period?
I don't think so. What he's doing is that basically, if he saves $100, he's giving the American people 25. So you're still going to have a 3/4 deflation. What he's doing is political. He's basically saying people can't comprehend these numbers, right? I'm going to save $1 trillion. It's meaningless for somebody. But if he says I'm going to save $1 trillion, in fact, for every person in the country I'm giving $5,000 to, that becomes meaningful. Okay. And then people get that. And then what are the Democrats going to say? We're going to vote against that. We're going to cut wasteful spending, and we're going to give a quarter of it back to the American people. And he wants to get the American people to taste that. So then when he does it again, I'm going to give you more taste, and basically he's going to try to reorganize government that way. It's going to be really interesting to see, Dave. I'm excited for it. And look, the Democrats are going to be on their heels because as they uncover where all this money went, there's probably a lot of Democratic Congress people and politicians and lobbyists and lawyers that have broken the law.
Yeah, there are going to be a lot of resignations too. And once that happens, maybe they'll be refilled with people who are Trump friendly, and then it can really push a lot of legislation through. Like once those people get out of the way, they shouldn't. Okay, the first they need to resign of their own volition, and then they need to face a court of law, criminal court, because if you and I did that, Bob, they would not give any mercy to us. They would put us under the jail. And then they because they're politicians, they expect that they're walking on water kind of people. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's gonna be careful how he does it. He's gonna make sure the American people see the benefit. Because remember, they tried to pre-accuse him of just being out on a witch hunt. I think what he's gonna do is he's gonna make sure everybody sees all the benefits. For us, trading in the stock market, there's just trades all the time now. And so I shot you over some of the stuff my people were saying and today I probably made 10 years worth of my service with people today in the trades.
Let me ask you a quick question about that. So, you said February 15th to March 20th seems to be a down period. Is that people pulling out money to pay taxes? And then after that happens, and after they pay, then they get some more. They understand the funds that they have. I mean, are we seeing something like? Does that add into it, or is it?
No, it's just that what happens if you at the end of the year is usually very, very bullish. And so the market's being driven by derivatives now, and the derivatives are the option markets, and they suppress volatility. It gets to a point where you just can't do it anymore. And then so you get this reverb back, and this is the reverb period. The money for taxes, well, usually that second week of April, people wait to the last minute to pull money out of the market to pay their taxes. And a lot of these guys, the big money's been coming out quarterly anyway. But this is more of a reverb, and we get the same reverb after summer too. That's why October is usually a September, October, that period between like September 15th, October 20th, that's the other reverb back in the market. So usually the best time to go long in the year is April 1st and then November 1st, for those next 90 days.
Tradewell2030.com. And also, I wanted to ask you about some indicators here because I'm learning more about dark pools and dark pool money, because it seems that 50% of all trades right now are dark pool money it actually was the first that eclipsed 50% of all trades. So I'm just curious about this dark pool funding, how this works inside the trades, and what kind of indicators you might have to be able to trigger that or see where that moves have come on the books, or if those orders are getting filled at a certain price point.
Yeah, they don't really affect what you see on the charts is really what's really happening. Those dark pools are matchups, and they usually then they're not so far off what's happening in the market, because that would be a fiduciary problem. And so what they try to do in a dark pool is, let's say you want to drop 100,000 shares, if they just dump that straight out into the market, it would cause the prices to fall. And so what they do is they just put out a signal out there saying, I got a client with 100,000 shares at this price, off market. Does anybody want to, provide liquidity and take those shares? And that's what they do. So it keeps the market actually more in balance than out of balance. So there's nothing nefarious with the dark pools. It's just that that's just what they do to basically keep the market from being even more chaotic than it is. In some sense, if you're a trader, you want the chaos, but most of the market's passive right now. So you just don't even see it. Like right now, I don't know if the market's settled down here. Yeah, it's settled down now, and it'll be settled down. It's 8:30 in the morning my time, 9:30 all of Europe's closed, and usually for the next 2.5 hours, the market just goes quiet to the end of the day. So the dark pools aren't that big of an issue. What's a bigger issue is really the derivatives. So we're getting to a point now where it used to be monthly options and weekly options. Now we have what's called zero DTE, which is 0 days to cover, expiration, I mean. And so if you get a sell-off like we had at the open here, it cascades, because all those people now have to cover that trade, because everybody now is trying to grab money for the day and not have overnight risk, okay? But that's when you start getting these big sell-offs that way. And that's more of a problem for the market, because right now we've had a sustained selling here for a couple of days. You risk a flash crash. And so I would think the regulators probably need to look at the liquidity that these things are taking away, and it may take a crash for them to deal with that. So that's why we're a little nervous now. We've been positioned short. We've been getting paid, and we think that's going to remain in effect until everything kind of balances back out again at the end of March.
Yeah, let me ask you a little bit longer time now to test out your win-loss ratio on the new algorithm that you have. So what are we sitting at now?
I ran everything through Grok 3 because it has now ability to do empirical back testing, and with some just minor suggestions from Grok 3, our algorithm is spot on. So we're pretty pumped. And so what we've been finding is that our win rates is around 65%, which is really good. More important is what's called the profit factor, meaning that you make more money when you win than you lose when you lose money. That's what a profit. That's been positive and been creeping up. But our customers now have been reporting that their win rates are even higher. And by the time you and I talk, we'll have it revised again based on the input we're getting now, because we're getting the ability now to see other back testing. And we're able to add more features to it now too, between a trending market and consolidating market. So we're able to, to keep enhancing our code. to know what signal to give depending on what kind of the market is. Before, you'd have to kind of know these things intuitively. Now we're able to build some of that stuff in so it can react to it faster. So yeah, so it's incredible. What we're able to do now. It's all technology. It's all things that we knew worked, but you couldn't prove it, with large scale, and you couldn't trade it automatically. And now we have it where the system now is giving us those alerts, and we're just passing these trades on, and we're doing quite well with it.
Yeah, please check that out. Trade with2030.com. And yeah, I've been using Bob's algorithm as well.
When we talk again, we'll show people live.
I do want to do that.
Yeah, we'll just show people live. It's an amazing tool. So I'm talking to you on this PC, but the PC that we'll do it with is right here, and we'll just zoom from that PC. We've done it before. I've shown my charts before. I'll just show the latest version of this thing. It's just scary good. And what we charge for the service, Dave, is
nothing compared to what you can get back off of that.
I mean, talking people paying between $400 and $700 a year, and some of these people, I made them $10,000 today. I mean, come on.
That's a fair trade. That's a fair trade.
Lifetime gains. So the tremendous opportunities here. So we're pumped. You can tell I'm really excited. We love this market. The more chaotic the market is, the more our algorithm finds opportunities. So you don't want a boring market. You want a market with some chaos in it because it provides you opportunity. Since we started, I went long Palantir at 90.50, and it just trailed me out at 92.08. So I made $1,500 while you and I have been talking on a trade. So that's just how this thing works. And by the way, I didn't get charged any margin because I didn't hold the trade overnight. That's the other trick. That's why everybody's going to zero DTE. They're not getting hit with margin interest if you close your trade out the same day. So that's why everybody's piling into the van here on these same day trades. Eventually, it's going to blow up. But if you set your stop right, you make some money, you move on.
All right, Bob, appreciate your time this week and this month, and hope everybody got something out of the video. Take from it what you need to power forward and make your plans in life come to fruition. And
hey, before we go, Dave, I'm going on vacation. When I come back from vacation, maybe like in March. Are you back in country in March?
I will be. Yep.
So why don't we do? I did this before. It costs money, folks, if you're listening. But I did a training class for some other people. It was really well received. And then if you come to the training, I'll show you how to trade, and then you automatically get a year's worth of the service, and you get access to the algorithm. I've done this now 2 or 3 times, and it's like an hour and a half. I'll walk you through very, very practical approaches, show you how the system works in detail, and then you get actually access to everything as well. So let's talk about that and see if there's enough people interested. It's been well received when I've done it with other people, so I like to do it with you too.
All right, something to look forward to next month, as well as markets maybe stabilizing a bit and starting to turn upward at the end of March. There's always next month to look forward to. So it depends how the world flows and how you're positioned. But anyway, Bob, bye for now.
Yeah. Thanks.